This week I wanted to do something a little bit different than my normal Sunday videos, which I will get back to next week, so don't worry. However, walking around the city over the past few months, I took some pictures that simply piled on my computer, and I wanted to share some of them with you. Going back to my introduction video on this channel, even though the city is far from perfect, I do really enjoy what the location has to offer. I live in Queens, for example, and I can get in my car and travel a short distance in Queens and enjoy some time away from the city, in, for example, the Queens Farm Museum. And while there, I can explore some tractors and farm machinery. Or I could go out a bit further away into Long Island and really have an immersive experience on the farm, making a friend along the way. I know he was just using me for food, but I like to think we developed a closer bond between one another. On the other hand, if I want some noise, some excitement, some visual stimulation, I can always go into the city itself and experience all the noise and smells and pushing and shoving that take place on New York City streets. After all, we do not have the nickname, the city that never sleeps, for no reason. As a New Yorker, you really need this once in a while. But in general, walking through the city streets, you get to see some interesting and, well, sometimes weird things. You can go up to Astoria in Queens and you get to see this, really taking the saying, "Dude, where's my car?" to another level. Now, if you think that this is cool and unique, well, it's not. Making your way into Greenpoint, Brooklyn, there is another car on top of a roof. Then you can travel back into Queens again and you get to see this magnificent piece of art. At this point, I really became convinced that we New Yorkers like to put things on wheels on top of buildings. Hey boss, what do we do with this? Just dump it on the roof, put some crazy glue on it and get back to work. I like to think that this is how these conversations go. We got some robots guarding businesses. Hey, it's not the robots you see in Terminator movies, but, well, it's a start. Or just a cat casually walking in Brooklyn on the rocks enjoying the sun. Whatever you do, make sure you just find a good parking spot and check your surroundings for any danger, because this could be the car you come back to in a few hours. And sometimes things are just plain old weird, like this man's bathroom sign I saw in Queens in one of the parks. Look at the hand connection. What is up with that? Are they holding like a stick between themselves? Is that a whole hand which is bent on the elbow? What is going on here? And who approved this design? But jokes aside, you do get the experience of various cultures, designs, influences from around the world. It's really amazing. And sometimes even confusing, as in this example. You get to go to Woodside, Queens, and in the middle of a very busy road called Queens Boulevard, you have this marker here pointing to the geographic center of New York City. Well, this is not the geographic center of New York City. And you can clearly see this by looking at Google Maps, that it would really make no sense for this to be the center. I'm sure most people never see this, and myself, I saw this right before COVID pandemic. And I went to Professor Google and Dr. YouTube for assistance, and to my surprise, there were a few stories online about this, but no one really knew who was responsible for it or the origins of it really. But there are many places like this throughout the city that you can just casually walk by without even noticing that there is something special about them. Like a little bit further up Queens Boulevard that I just showed you, in the Sunnyside neighborhood of Queens, you have Wendy's, a fast food place, but there is also a small marker reminding of the history of the location. This is a place of a former Sunnyside Garden Arena, a boxing venue. It entertained people from the late 1940s all the way until 1977, when it closed and Wendy's was built, but some of the biggest names in boxing fought inside of that building. There are also remains of few small private cemeteries throughout the city, which again I am sure many people walk by without even noticing. One of them is here in Middle Village neighborhood in Queens, in Juniper Valley Park, right off the streets and on the side of a really big park. There is the Pullis Farm Cemetery. As Manhattan grew, so did the population and hence problems of burying people on the island. Already since the 1820s, laws were being introduced in burying people in Lower Manhattan. And then finally in 1852, it was prohibited to bury anyone south of 86th Street due to the fear of disease. And later on, really sort of the need for expansion of the city. Therefore, many people buried their family on plots of land, a farm that they had in Brooklyn or in Queens. And a handful of them remain till this day surrounded by the modern city. Here is another example of the Lawrence Cemetery in Astoria, Queens, with about 90 graves, and the first person to be buried here was in 1703. Or this one in Rego Park, and check this out. It's near Wendy's. Seriously, Wendy's knows how to choose their location next to or on historic places. But this one is the Remsen Cemetery, and believe me when I know that most people do not even know about it, because it is located next to one of the busiest streets in Queens, Woodhaven Boulevard and Metropolitan Avenue, but it's just enough on the side that most people do not go down that street. Jeremus Remsen, a colonel from the American Revolution who fought in the Battle of Long Island, passed away in 1790 and is buried here along with members of his family. There are still few places like this throughout the city itself. Some cemeteries are bigger and more visible, like this one in Jamaica, Queens. This is the Grace Episcopal Church, which was built in 1861-62, so right at the beginning of the American Civil War. However, the graves that you see go back to the 1730s. It's a beautiful church and place, and even though it's located on the main busy street of Jamaica Avenue, many people do not even stop to look at it, because nearby you have lots and lots of stores, activities, the Social Security Administration building, Queen's Family Court, and so I'm sure that everybody is walking by thinking of other things. And if they do want to rest and look around, they are probably doing so one street away in the Rufus King Park, where we also have something historical, the King Manor Museum. The house was originally built in 1730 and then expanded on throughout the years afterwards. However, in 1805, it was bought by Rufus King, who was one of the signers of the American Constitution and the first senator from New York, along with Philip Schuyler. He was an anti-slavery advocate who consistently opposed the expansion of slavery. And so it's really cool that the city maintains and preserves this place, which is really tied to a lot of history, not just of the city, but really of America as a country. And so these are just some of the things I came across in the city, and of course I will be showing you far more on this channel, but the point is, keep your eyes open, as many times we are so busy with our own lives that we tend to walk by places which hold tremendous meaning and history without even noticing them. I hope you enjoyed this short video, and I will see you very soon.